Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel. In today's session, we will explore the critical metrics essential for monitoring Apache Kafka effectively. So understanding and tracking these key metrics are crucial for ensuring the performance, reliability, and scalability of our Kafka cluster in real-time data processing environment. So we will monitor the key metrics and we will see what are the key metrics to monitor of Kafka and Zookeeper using the JMX Exporter. So we have already installed the JMX Exporter and we have already installed with the Prometheus and Grafana setup. So, so in today's session, we will learn about what is Apache Kafka, then understand about the Kafka architecture, and then we will see some important metrics to monitor in Kafka. So like there are number of active controllers should always be 1. The number of under-replicated partitions should always be 0, and number of offline partitions should always be 0. So we will learn about more about these metrics, and finally we will see the categories of Apache Kafka metrics, which include the metrics type as broker metrics, producer, consumer, zookeeper, as well as JVM metrics. And then we will conclude for today. So let's start. So what is Apache Kafka? So Apache Kafka is a distributed streaming platform used for building real-time data pipelines as streaming application. So it's like a highly efficient and scalable messaging system that can handle large volumes of data in real time. Now let's learn about the Apache Kafka architecture. So you can refer to this article which is available on postexchange.com, where I have mentioned in detail about the Apache Kafka metrics. So here you can find this is the architecture of Apache Kafka. So in Kafka, the producers are processor. So producers are process or application that will publish streams of data records to Kafka topic. So let's take an example of Zomato. So in Zomato's case, various services could act as producer. So an order placement service might publish a stream of records whenever a new record is created. So this record could include details like the customer ID, restaurant ID, and order item. So a real-time location service might publish updates on the location of delivery personnel. Then comes the broker. So Kafka brokers are servers that store the published streams of record. So they act like as a central nervous system of the Kafka architecture. So Zomato would likely run a cluster of Kafka brokers to handle the high volume of data generated by its various services. Then comes the topic. So basically topics are categories or fields in Kafka where related records are grouped. So topic can have multiple partitions for scalability. So Zomato could have topics for different purposes, like a topic named order events might hold all the order placement records. Another topic named as delivery updates might hold location updates for delivery person. Then comes the consumers. So consumers are the process or application that subscribe to the topics of interest and consume the published streams of record. So in Zomato's scenario, various consumer application might be subscribed to the relevant topic. So a service managing order deliveries might subscribe to the order events topic to receive notification about new orders and assign them to delivery person. So real-time tracking dashboard might subscribe to delivery updates topic to display the live location of delivery person. Then comes the zookeeper. So while not explicitly, so Kafka often uses zookeeper, a distributed coordination service for tasks like reader election, choosing a replica broker to handle which reads or write for partition and maintain cluster configuration. So in Zomato's case, Zookeeper would ensure coordination among the Kafka brokers in the cluster. So this was the architecture of Kafka. Now let's learn some important metrics to monitor in Kafka. So there are few metrics which are super important to have, like the number of active controllers should always be 1. So basically, let's check this metric. So I have mentioned the metric name here. So simply you can copy this. Otherwise, you can also search here. So if you paste this and execute this here, you can find it is 1. So the number of active controllers should always be 1. So basically, this metric will track the number of active controllers in the Kafka cluster, and there should always be exactly 1 active controller in healthy Kafka cluster. So the controller is responsible for tasks like leader election and cluster metadata management. So the importance monitoring this metric will ensure that the cluster has a stable controller, which is crucial for proper cluster operation and result. Let's check the second metric, which is important. So the number of under-replicated partitions should always be 0. Now let's see here. So just type here under replicated. So here you can find this metric name and just execute. So here you can find it is 0. So this metric will count the number of partitions in the cluster that are under-replicated. So meaning they do not have enough replicas to meet the replication factor configured for them. So having the under-replicated partition can lead to data loss or unavailability in case of node failure. So monitoring this metric will help ensure data redundancy and fault tolerance. Now let's see the next metric, which is important. So next metric is the number of offline partitions should always be 0. So basically this metric will track the number of partitions that are currently offline, so meaning that they are not accessible or available for data operation. So the importance of offline partition can indicate issues with the brokers or partition not being properly assigned or replicated. So monitoring this metric will help to maintain data ability and cluster stability. Now let's check this metric. So you can copy this or simply search your offline. And simply execute. So it should be always 0. Now let's learn some Apache Kafka categories, which include categories like broker metrics, producer metrics. So there are total 5 categories of Apache metrics. So let's learn one by one. So broker metrics. The monitoring and alerting on issues as they emerge in our broker cluster is critical since all messages must pass through a Kafka broker to be consumed. So key broker metrics consist of the topic activity, which track the volume of messages being produced and consumed across different topics. So this will help identify popular topics, potential bottlenecks, and overall cluster load. Then comes the broker performance. So monitoring key broker metrics like CPU, memory usage, and network input output. So this will allow you to identify overloaded brokers and potential resource constraints. Then the consumer groups. So it will gain the insight into the consumer group behavior, which will monitor metrics like consumer offsets and lag to ensure consumers are actively processing messages and identify any lagging consumer. And the replication, which will ensure data integrity and redundancy by monitoring replication metrics. Then finally comes the error. So quickly identify the troubleshoot issues by monitoring error metrics. So this metric will track error like produce request failure, fetch request failures, and invalid message formats. So here you can find the broker metrics, which consist of the under-replicated partition, which will give the number of under-replicated partition across all topics in the broker. And here, here we have seen that it should be always 0. So you can, now next is the active controller count. So you can simply copy this matrix name and search in the Prometheus. Active controller count. So here you can find the metric name. So here you can find it is 1. So the active controller count will indicate whether the broker is active and should always be equal to 1. And since there is only one broker at the same time, that acts as a controller. Then we have also learned about the offline partition count. So just type your offline partition count and simply execute. So it should be always 0. Then you can also find other metrics like request per second, which will give the frequency of request from producer, consumer, and the subscriber. So you can simply copy this and paste here. So you can search the metrics here, which will show the frequency of request from producer, consumer, as well as from subscriber. So the active controller count of offline partition and under-replicated partition are important metrics to be monitored. Now let's move forward to our next category, which is a producer metrics. So the producer metrics provide valuable insights into the behavior and performance of applications sending messages to our Kafka cluster. So there are some key producer metrics like message production rate. So the number of messages produced per second by the producer application. So this will help the cost to the overall message volume being sent to Kafka. Then comes the another key producer metric as batch size. So the average size of message batches sent by the producer, which is larger batches can improve throughout the throughput, but finding the optimal size depends on factors like topic replication and network latency. Thus the delivery rate, which is also the key producer metric. So the rate at which messages are successfully delivered to Kafka broker. So this metric helps it to identify any bottlenecks or delays in the message production pipeline. Then comes the producer errors. So it maintains the track errors encountered by the producer such as produce request failures or serialization of errors. So here you can find the metrics, which can find the producer metrics, for example, as compression rate average, which will give the average of compression rate of send batches, the response rate, which gives an average number of responses received per second. You can search here. So here you can find the Kafka network response rate here. Then next comes the request rate. You can also search here. And here you can all find the request metrics and you can execute here and monitor them. The outgoing byte rate, which will give an average number of outgoing bytes per second. Now let's learn the next type, the next category of Apache Kafka, which is consumer metrics. So consumer metrics are crucial for understanding how efficiently our application are processing messages from Kafka topic. So consumer metrics offer a window into various aspects of our Kafka consumers, including the consumption rate, fetch behavior, errors, and commit interval. So consumption rate will keep the track of the number of messages the consumer is processing per second. So this helps gauge overall processing efficiency and identify consumer that might be falling behind. Then comes the fetch behavior. So monitor metrics like fetch size and frequency to understand how consumers are requesting data from the broker. So this can reveal potential inefficiencies in data fetching strategy. Then comes the offsets, which will track consumer offsets to determine the progress within a topic partition. Then comes the commit intervals, which will monitor how often consumer commit the offsets to Kafka. And finally, the error, which will identify and diagnose issues related to message consumption. So here you can find the type of the consumer metrics, which is the records like bytes consumed rate, which will give the average byte consumed per second for each consumer for specific topic. Then comes the fetch rate. You can search here, and here you can find the fetch rate, or you can find the fetch rate metrics, and you can monitor that. So which will give the number of fetch requests per second from the consumer. So basically you need to customize your configuration file to get this metrics. So that's why it's not showing here. So you can customize your configuration file and get the required metrics like this. So this is the configuration file. So in previous session I have created this, which include metrics, the important metrics like under replicated, offline partition, and active, and controller active count. So with the help of this configuration file, we can get the important metrics. Now let's learn about the next metric, which is Zookeeper metric. So Zookeeper, the crucial distributed coordination service for many Kafka deployments, which also offers a rich set of metrics to monitor its health and performance. So the categories of Zookeeper metrics like cluster state, which will monitor metrics like the number of active servers, followers, and observers in our Zookeeper ensemble. This will ensure the health and identify the potential issues like server outages or connectivity problems. Next is the request processing. So basically, it will track metrics like number of requests per second, reads, writes, request latencies, and failed requests. Then comes the watcher performance. So watchers are a core Zookeeper feature for notification on data changes. So monitoring metrics like the number of watchers and average watch event latency to ensure sufficient efficient change notification mechanism. There comes the synchronization. So Zookeeper uses synchronization of primitives like lock, which will track metrics like lock acquisition times and concentration rates to identify potential synchronization bottlenecks in our application. So here you can find the Zookeeper metrics type like outstanding request, which will give the number of requests that are in the queue, average latency, the response time to a client request in milliseconds, and etc. So you can learn about this metric. So now you can also refer the Apache Kafka official documentation page. So here you can search the Apache Kafka, and if you go below the operation and the 6.6, which consists of the monitoring 6.8, sorry, which consists of the metric. So if you click on this, so here you can find the metrics. So you can also learn about this, and you can customize your own configuration file and get the required metrics as per your requirement. So you can refer the official documentation for this. So here you can find the pattern. So your metrics like controller request rate, which will give the rate request per second at which control channel manager take request from the queue of the given broker. So you can find other metrics by referring this documentation provided by Apache Kafka. So let's move forward and see the last type of Apache Kafka metrics, which is the JVM metrics. So while Kafka itself provides valuable metrics, so the underlying JVM Java Virtual Machine offers another crucial layer of monitoring for our Kafka deployment. So JVM metrics expose insights into the health and performance of the Java environment running our Kafka. So for example, as memory usage, so it will track metrics like heap memory usage, non-heap memory usage, and garbage collection activity. So you can find the metrics. So no, you need to customize your configuration. So we will get that metrics. So again, let's move back. So memory usage, as we can track the metrics like heap memory usage, non-heap memory usage, threading. So monitor metrics like thread count, CPU usage by thread pool utilization. This helps will identify potential thread starvation or overloaded thread pool. Then comes the class loading. Then comes the class loading, which will track metrics like number of loaded class and class loading. So here you can find the metric name. So the collection count will define the total number of young or old garbage collection process performed by the JVM. So you can copy this. Let's check. So here you can find the collection count in JVM metrics. So the total number of young or old garbage collection process performed by the JVM. Then the collection time. So it will give the total amount of time in milliseconds that JVM spent execution young or old garbage collection process. Then some host metrics such as page cache reads ratio. So it will describe the ratio of the number of reads from the cache pages and the number of reads. Then the disk usage, so the amount of used and available disk is. We can monitor this metrics. Then comes the network bytes. You can there are also network bytes. Here, if you search type your network, then all the network metrics of Kafka can be seen. So if you execute this, here you can find the 0. So you can monitor this. And for visualization, you can use Grafana. So as I have told you that Prometheus provides Kafka metrics file using JMX Exporter in the below official Prometheus JMX Exporter official GitHub repository. So if you click on this repository, here you can find the default configuration file provided by Prometheus. So with the help of this file only, I have shown you the metrics, the important metrics like under replicated partition, active controller count, offline partition, etc. So you can edit this file and add your own configuration. to gain more metrics. So we have successfully seen all the metric types as well as some important metrics to monitor in Kafka. So therefore, we will conclude for today. So in conclusion, monitoring Apache Kafka involves tracking essential metrics across brokers, producers, and consumers, as well as Zookeeper, so ensuring optimal performance and reliability in real-time data processing environments. So by focusing on these key metrics, organizations can proactively manage Kafka cluster and maintain high availability for their streaming application. So thank you for watching my video. Please do subscribe our channel and like and share this video. So thank you once again and see you in the next video.